Alrighty, guys, looks like we are live again tonight. Getting back to normal, hopefully, whatever normal is. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're with us. We have something kind of interesting tonight. Either I'm a glutton for punishment, or who knows. But we're going to see what happens here. Anyway, I want to welcome you with us. If you have never been with us, hold that thought. What did I do here? Sorry, I thought I turned the fan on and I turned it off. Anyway, there we go. So you see my background probably flapping in the wind here in a minute. Anyway, great to have you with us. Hey there, Billy Williams. Awesome to see you here tonight, as well as Bobby Allison and anyone else who might be joining us. And I have several things I want to talk about before we get started here, and I'm gonna transition that to this. In August, the first weekend in August, 6 through 8, I think is what it is. We are having a lectureship, Spirit and Life Lectures in Ludington, Michigan, at the Church of Christ in Ludington. So we just would love to have you come and be with us. I thought I'd have time to get that pulled up, the flyer, but I'm just not good at this stuff, and I'm always pressed for time. And anyway, so we'd love to have you come and be a part of that. We're going to have Steve Baisden on with me maybe next week or something. We're going to be talking about this anyway pretty soon. And that's going to be a great time. It's going to be a hot time in the old town then, not tonight. So don't go there tonight. Nobody's there. Well, there might be somebody there, but either way, what we're going to do tonight is, hey, I didn't. I'll try this. We're going to take call. I'm going to take calls tonight. So let me. How do I do this? I hate this. I really hate this about me. Okay, so we'll do that. And I need to not do that. I'm sorry, guys. This is I'm trying to do this on a PowerPoint kind of thing, but either way, it's just not my thing. You know what I mean? So there we go. Hit the close button. Aha! I think I got it. So what I'm going to do here is, now I have to figure out how to. There we go. Okay, this is the one I want. So we're going to ask one question and one answer. So essentially the way this is going to work is you get to ask me a question. You can call in live, actually. And you can ask a question. We're going to try to keep this eschatology related. But so I'm going to go over this here in just a minute. So let me transition back to this so I can check on my other stuff here, because looked like I was having a connection problem. So you can call in and you can ask a question here in just a few. And we're going to encourage Scott Russell to call in. Of course, anybody can call, I guess. I'm just kind of explaining what I want to do. Lori White, call in. It really doesn't matter who it is. What we are looking for is members of the Church of Christ. Obviously, I'm interested in that because that's the church I'm a member of. And also, you we're looking for people really that are interested in eschatology questions. Of course, we'll try to answer any question that we can, but sometimes they're just really ridiculous questions. So this program is about eschatology. And we teach that Jesus has come because he said he did, and he said when he would come, and that time has come and gone. So either he did or he didn't. And so we can certainly ask those questions. I'm going to tell you the phone number. It's 317-626-5804. So I got to turn this down because you probably don't want to hear "She's Real Fine" by 409. It's my ringtone. Not very many people know what that song is anymore. Either way, give me a call if you want to ask a question regarding to eschatology. Here's the way this works. Let me pull this back up here. So here's the way this is going to work. So it's one question, one answer, right? So here's the way I want to do this. You ask one question, but then I get to ask you a question. We're going to answer that one question, and then we're done. It's not, well, what about this and what about that? You stick to the topic. You talk about what your question is. And I don't want one of these questions that has 40 questions in one sentence, okay? No, that doesn't work. This is one question and one answer, okay? And then I get to do the same thing. You ask me a question, but I get to ask you a question. And this, as I said, we really want to gear this towards eschatology. We believe that eschatology is the gospel. The gospel is eschatology. And if you think that I'm wrong about that, I don't care. I mean, I want you to understand where I'm coming from, but at the same time, I'm not here to please people, right? So that's the way this works. You ask one question, and I ask one question. I'll answer that question, and you have to answer mine. I think here, point number two, is there has to be respect. Without that, we should be at this for understanding, for learning, for growing, and so forth. And in order to do that, come on, we got to have respect. I want people to feel comfortable watching the show. Obviously, no bad language or anything like that. I don't want any of this Facebook keyboard courage antics. If that happens, where people just automatically are like, "Oh, you're going to hell," that's it. We're done. I'll just end the call and block you forever if I have to. I don't have a problem doing that. You need to identify yourself. Everybody knows who I am, and I do not hide that. Somebody on Facebook today was just, and she knows better. She knows that I tell everybody I'm the preacher at the West Side Church of Christ. I make no bones about it. I give the address, 2675 Kentucky Avenue, Indianapolis, Indiana. I invite people to come and check us out and see what we're all about. And you have to identify yourself too. None of this incognito, well, I'm going to ask a question, but I don't want anyone to know who I am. Listen, if you're too ashamed to own your Lord, then you're too ashamed to call this program. So there you go. We're going to stick to one topic. We're not going to be all over the board, this and that and that and this and so on and so forth. We're just going to stick to one topic. And there is going to be a time limit, okay? So this time limit is, I don't know, not the whole program for one question and to argue and stuff. We're not going to do that. You just answer the question. I'll do my dead level best to answer the question, right? And if I can't answer it, which, there are some things I can't answer. I don't have all of the answers for everything, but, I'm a student of the Bible. I'm willing to learn. So the big thing here is, are you willing to learn? If you're willing to learn, if you're going to ask a question and you want me to change, if I see that your answer is correct, I only ask the same thing out of you. If you answer, or if I answer a question and it makes sense, are you willing to change? One of the things about the Church of Christ is we have for a very long time prided ourselves on a phrase that goes something similar to this. And it is, we're willing to follow the Scriptures wherever they may lead. So, are you willing to do that? It's a fair and it's a legitimate question. I was looking for a way. The phone number, 317-626-5804. Give me a call. And it doesn't have to be someone who disagrees with me. If one of y'all are out here and you want to ask a question, just ask a question. You don't have to be a member of the Church of Christ. So let's just kick this off and get this started. I do not know what's going on with my fan there. I came in here and the air conditioning was turned off, so it's really hot. Anyway, well, I'll get through it. It's nothing I haven't dealt with all day long in the heat and the humidity and working outside. Okay, well, let's just kick this off. Okay, so we believe, we know that Jesus said, he taught that he was coming back in the first century. And that is what he taught. That is the theme of the entire Bible. Now, if you don't like that, then, okay. I mean, it's okay. You don't have to like everything in the scriptures. But what about this concept that Jesus said, I'm coming back. I'm going to return in your lifetime. The phone number, matter of fact, I was going to write that down here, so let me do that. The phone number to call is this. I'm putting it right now in the comments. So there you go. So give me a call and let's discuss this. Okay? So don't forget the rules. Now the rules are very important. But let me go back over to this one more time. If you're going to call and ask a question, you need to be respectful. You ask one question, I get to ask one question. None of this Facebook keyboard courage antics. You're going to have to identify yourself. I mean, you don't have to give your name, address, social security number. Just tell us who you are and what church you go to. That's actually important to people when they are listening to this. We'll stick to one topic. We're not going to take the whole show to do this. And there's my phone number, 317-626-5804. So I'm really hoping that some of the people that just dearly love to rake us over the coals will give us a call. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 16, this is what is often leveled against us. This is the charge leveled against us. That all we ever do is talk about Matthew 16, 27 and 28. Well, here's what I say. All the futurist teachers ever do is run away from Matthew 16, 27 and 28. Hey, that's a difficult passage, and I want to understand it. So here's what I'm going to do. And I want you to call in, okay? Just ask the question. Let's see if we get any takers here tonight. Matthew 16, 27, 28. So I'm going to have to keep saying this because people might join us and then not realize we're taking live calls, of which we're yet to have one, unless I've missed one. Nope. I did get a photo from Billy. I don't know how I could do this. What is this on? I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this and not close what I'm doing here. Either way, I'll figure it out. 317-626-5804. Give us a call. Matthew 16, 27, 28. Jesus said, "For the Son of Man is about to come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and will then repay every man according to his deeds." Now, how do you feel about that? Hey, yeah, you're right, Rick. Rick got it, the Beach Boys. If you weren't listening at the beginning of this, you missed it. He says, let me repeat this, the Son of Man is about to come in the glory. I hope you're reading your own Bibles, by the way. About to come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and will then repay every man according to his deeds. Wow, what do you get out of that? I mean, seems pretty clear to me. Verse 28, truly I say to you, there are some of those who are standing here who will... I got a call. Now, this is scary because I have no idea who this is. Hello, caller. You're on the air.
John.
Yeah.
This is Bobby Allison.
Hey, I should have figured that out. From Texas. Now, we got to follow the rules for tonight, right?
Right.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do once I put this phone in the holder. I got to turn it all the way up so people can hear. And so your name's Bobby. You're from Texas. And what church are you a part of?
The church, the Lord's church, the Church of Christ.
Okay. Boy, you know, I got into a real mess over that Church of Christ stuff today on Facebook. I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook, but yeah, they're ridiculing me, and you know, they want to equate me with Don Preston, which there could be worse things. You know, they don't understand what the Church of Christ is, Bobby.
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to take away from your question or your comment. Go right ahead.
I have a question for you, and I don't know how you'll respond, but
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry. I take that back. I do know how you'll respond.
I figured that.
I think. What does Titus chapter 2, verses 11 through 14 mean?
Well,
Specifically the pronouns.
since this is the only section of the Bible I don't have memorized, I got to look at it. I'm sorry, let me read this. For the grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation to all men, instructing us to deny ungodliness and worldly desires, and to live sensibly, righteously, and godly in the present age, looking for the blessed hope and the appearing of the glory of our great God and Savior, Christ Jesus. Well, from my perspective, it is exactly the same thing that Jesus taught while he was alive. Matthew 16, 27, 28. Matthew 10. I mean, just the Olivet Discourse. It's all over the place. This was his teaching. It was prophecy from the Old Testament. And it's about the coming of the Lord in their lifetime. Not only did Paul encourage Titus to be looking for the Lord to come, we're talking about his second coming. He encouraged Timothy. Every time he wrote, essentially, this was his theme. But am I getting anywhere close to what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Us, we, equates to you in Matthew 16, 27, 28.
Right. Yeah, it's the same thing. You know, it's not like Jesus taught different things regarding eschatology. It's all the same thing. And in his lifetime, he taught consistently. Paul taught Jesus' doctrine consistently. Let's see. Just all of them did. Not only did they do it with baptism. Hey, here's how I equate this, Bobby. So Jesus says, I want you to go into all the world, teach every living creature about me, baptize every living creature in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and so forth, okay? So what do we see just a few days later in Acts chapter 2? After the ascension, and Jesus said, I want you to teach people certain things. What did Peter do? And the others on the day of Pentecost? What did they teach? When they were asked, they taught baptism.
Exactly what he commanded.
That's exactly right. And so they didn't waver or deviate from that, nor did they waver or deviate from the teaching of Jesus on his second coming. That's the way I see it. Now, here's something I would point out also. He says here that they were looking for the grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation to all men. Well, when does salvation come? There's my question for you. When does salvation come? I know you know the answer to this.
Salvation come when the last enemy, death, was destroyed.
That's right. What is that in the future?
No.
Our future?
You notice they use the past tense, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry, I got distracted. There's another call coming in. Let's see. I don't know how to hold that. But give me just a second, guys, and whoever's calling, call me back in just a moment. Or I'll try to... Matter of fact, I'll just try to call you back when I get done with Bobby. Okay, sorry about that. So Hebrews 9:28, it's a great one.
Yes.
And I know you got it memorized.
No,
I've heard you
no.
quote it.
No. No, sir, I don't. I'm sorry. Actually, it's fairly simple. It's a simple text. Why people want to complicate it, I'm not sure. Because he was offered once to bear the sins of many.
Yes.
And to those who eagerly wait for him shall he appear that second time apart from sin, that is, apart from reference to sin, for salvation.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. You got it. Salvation comes at the coming of the Lord. That is a theme, by the way, that is not a preterist theme. That is a theme that is very much a theological theme. So, it's not that we're the only ones, teaching that concept. We're not. It's not exclusive to preterist teaching. Theologians know when Jesus comes, it's salvation. And there's no salvation until he returns.
Right.
Yep.
And so those who say that he has not returned yet, what can be implied from that statement? Salvation is not ours.
Right. Yep.
If they're right, which I totally deny. But
yep, I'm there with you. Okay. Well, brother, I appreciate it quite a bit. I'm going to try to get to this other caller here. Unless you got something else, I don't want to cut you off with what you wanted to say.
No, sir. I just wanted to break the ice and show people just how simple and easy it is to call into this show and just how cordial you will be with them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. And I appreciate you, brother, and your good wife. And you guys are just the bee's knees. You know that, right?
Well, okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's a good thing. You don't hear people say you're the bee's knees very much anymore, but...
Right, no.
Yeah. I could have said you're the berries.
Okay.
There you go. You're the berries. Yeah, you guys are.
Thank you, John.
Alrighty, brother. Hey, love you. You guys take care of yourself and pass on our warmest affections to your family and all the good brethren there in Texas.
I most certainly will. You do the same. Love y'all.
Alrighty, yeah. Love you too. Have a good one.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Alrighty, I think I might have this correct. Caller, you on the air.
Okay.
Hello?
Hello.
John?
Yes.
Alrighty, brother. Hey,
I think I better turn the Facebook thing off.
Yeah, just turn your volume down and you'll still be able to see the video. There'll be a delay though.
Okay, yeah, that's what's got me confused. This kind of goes along with what you're talking about, and it baffles me about the high priest, why within preterist circles, fulfilled eschatology, and even among dispensationalists and futurists, that the emphasis of the high priest appearing and when he did is not made known.
And that's very sad. Hey, before we get too far in, you're gonna have to give us your name, if you don't
Hello?
mind.
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Who am I talking to? I talked to lots
This
of.
is Julie Hand.
Okay, gotcha, great. See, I talked to a lot of people on Facebook, but I can never hear their voice. So, yeah. So that's fantastic. Great to actually talk to you. Okay, so here's the way I see the high priest thing. It's too complicated for the modern Christian to deal with it, because from my circle, the way I was raised, how I was taught, and what I even taught was that the Old Testament's done. There's no high priesthood anymore. The Jews are defunct. And so that made me very lazy in my studies of the Old Testament. And I was taught, just like so many, that, well, you don't need the Old Testament. because Colossians 2:14 says that it was nailed to the cross and been taken out of the way. Well,
Right,
they
yeah.
missed lots of other passages. And I think, Julie, you know as well as I do that we need that Old Testament.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So if we don't have it, if in other words, if we don't have that knowledge stuck in our head, then we cannot. This is the thing that is scary to me. There's a passage that I overlooked for many, many, many years. And then recently, after I became a preterist, I came across it again, and it makes sense. It's John chapter 5, verse 44. Starting in verse 44. So check this out. Jesus says, "How can you believe when you receive glory from one another, and you do not seek the glory that is from the one and only God?" Okay, so that's what's going on today. In religion, most people want their fellowship with the people that they're already around, and they don't want to offend them. I'm sure you've seen that.
Right.
Yeah. It says, yeah, so they don't want to offend them. They love their fellowship, which is a good thing to a degree, but it's a bad thing if that's what we're worshiping, and so many people do. So anyway, so that's what they're doing. They're seeking glory from one another. Verse 45, "Do not think I will accuse you before the Father. The only one who accuses you is Moses, in whom you've set your hope." So he says, you're seeking glory from one another, and you've set your hope in Moses. Now,
Right.
I think the hope that they had was, some of them had hope of a physical resurrection, national Israel becoming worldwide Israel, and in a physical sense, and they were sorely disappointed. I think that they felt Ezekiel 37 was going to come true in their case, in their lifetime. Boy, doesn't that sound familiar? Going to be a physical
Right.
resurrection in our lifetime. And that lie is still being told today. So that's what they had set their hope in. But notice what he says in verse 46. "If you believed Moses, you would believe me, for he wrote about me." So Jesus says, if you believe Moses, you believe me. By the way, Moses, this is a great study. Moses is a type of Jesus.
Yeah.
Of course, that's probably more than we'll get in here tonight. But verse 47, "If you do not believe his writings, how will you believe my words?" So that's why we don't understand. That's why I didn't understand the high priesthood and the feasts and the whole 9 yards. So since people don't get that, they're trying to make sense out of 1/4 of the Bible without the other 3/4 of the Bible that's necessary information to be able to make it all make sense.
For sure, I hear you. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, there's plenty of passages we could look at, but I really think all of this relates to the feasts, don't you?
Oh yeah, and that's the Day of Atonement. The priest has to come out, and for the people that believed and had their sin covered, they rejoiced, and if not, it was judgment. And why is this not emphasized for his coming? That last feast there. Well, it wasn't the last one. They had Feast of Tabernacles, but why is that not emphasized more among preterists? That's what I wonder about.
It's still a tough thing. Okay, here's my experience, Julie. So when I go to talk to somebody about the Lord coming, and so you may have heard Bobby just a moment ago, and he said that salvation comes at the coming of the Lord. Well, that's exactly what we're talking about right now. And that's it's proven by the feasts. Well, this is like talking to someone about, I don't know, building a rocket. If they don't understand the inner workings of a rocket, or at least the basic principles of jet propulsion and so forth, they're just going to stare at you like you're from Mars and you're speaking Martian, because that information does not exist in their brain. And then cognitive dissonance kicks in when you start making sense, and they begin to deny because the information is simply not there. So they go to access this information, there's nothing there. So here's the thing. So in Leviticus chapter 17, I think this is 17, it illustrates, you talked about the last feast. The last feast is actually 3 feasts, all rolled into one.
Right. Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, they were successive. One led to the other. There was no time in between them. This was, it certainly wasn't what Schofield said. When it happens in that generation, then it's going to happen quick. It happened in that generation, and it happened quick. I'll show you something else maybe here in a minute. Maybe. But anyway, Leviticus 17 describes the priest, okay, in verse 17, when he goes in to make atonement, that's 16, Leviticus 16. When he goes in to make atonement in the holy place, no one shall be in the tent of meeting until he comes out, that he may make atonement for himself and for his household and for all the assembly of Israel. Now, this is also the same thing in Hebrews 9.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, Hebrews 9, what was the purpose of the atonement? If you remember, it was for forgiveness of the sins of the people committed in ignorance. So this is what the atonement's for. Now, this does not happen, as I just read, until he comes out. So how do you explain this to someone who has never, ever heard about the 7 feasts?
Right.
It's you're talking to them about rocket science, and they don't even know how to put gas in a car. So that's what makes it so difficult.
Well, I know among dispensationalists and futurists, they'll talk about the other ones, and give Israel a little credit and all for that, but it comes to the other ones, and they just, well, like you said, they have no answer for when he was supposed to appear. We got a whole book. Hebrew is about the high priest.
That's right.
It seems to me it should be emphasized a little more, to keep them more familiar with their Old Testament. But
yeah, and that's our Achilles heel of today.
Yeah.
We have been told, well, you don't need the Old Testament because Colossians 2:14, blah blah blah, and we've just shot ourselves in the foot. We're trying to figure out the last quarter of the inspired writings without ever consulting the first 3 quarters of it.
Right. Yeah. It's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. That's a great question, and a great point. We have got to start emphasizing this more, but it's an uphill battle because you're trying to teach somebody something that they don't even care to learn, which is sad. So we know what the scriptures teach, right, Julie? If God's people have no knowledge, what happens to them?
Exactly.
Yeah, they perish.
Yes. I try to ask whenever I can, and whether it's because I am in dispensational groups too.
Yeah.
Kind of incognito, but I think most of them know where I'm coming from anyway. But,
right, yeah, they figure it out pretty quick.
Right, and they have no answer for it, and I ask in preterist circles too, and nobody really wants to talk about it that much, and I think it's a shame. To me, it kind of ties so much together that needs to be seen, and you got the whole book of Hebrews.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dead on. You got it.
Well, I don't want to occupy too much of your time here. I really do appreciate you taking the time, though, and answering.
Well, it's absolutely my pleasure and joy and honor to be able to do it. And thank you so much for calling.
Well, thank you, and be praying for you. Keep sharing the truth.
Well, same here. It goes both ways.
Okay.
Okay. You have a great night. Thank you for calling.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, now, in case you haven't figured this out and you're just joining us, we're taking live calls tonight. And let me bring this back up here, give you a little bit of the rules. This really probably is more for those who disagree with me. So far, we've just had great questions and great points. But, there are a lot of people that really want to just try to rake me over the coals on Facebook and, well, whatever, you name it. It doesn't matter. I can go visit a local church. They do the exact same thing. But I want these people to call. And, you ask me a question, I ask you a question. It's real simple. We can be respectful about that. We don't have to use these crazy antics and keyboard courage tactics that you see on Facebook. Just tell us who you are. If you want to give us some little more information about yourself, the viewers would love. Just eat that up, and you'll find yourself getting a lot of friend requests. I'll guarantee you that from Facebook. We can just stick to one topic and try to hold it down a little bit. The number's 317-626-5804. So give me a call. Now, let me switch back over here. 317-626-5804. And Julie, I see the comments here. They changed Facebook a few weeks ago, and I changed back. So now I can actually see the comments. So it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for calling. 317-626-5804. We had started talking about Matthew 16, 27, and 28. So if you're just joining us, go over there and check this out. So Matthew 16, 27, and 28, Jesus clearly says, now, let me tell you a story or two. I have shown this verse. I've asked people, just tell me what this verse means. If you were standing there 3 feet in front of Jesus, listening to him speak, and he said these words to you, what would you think? Okay, so just think about this. The Son of Man is about to come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and will then repay every man according to his deeds. Truly I say to you, there are some of those standing here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. So, if you were there 2,000 years ago, roughly, and you heard Jesus say this, what would you think? By the way, hi Cammie, hi Bill Evans. Bobby, thanks for the good comments here tonight, by the way. I wanted to say that. What would you have thought? And they have answered emphatically and usually very quick. Well, it sounds like, this is their answer. Well, it sounds like he's saying that he's going to come in their lifetime. Some of them will still be alive. Well, that's exactly what he said. The problem is, they get it. And then they go to their preacher and they tell their preacher, and their preacher's like, oh, no, that's not what that means. And then the preacher will tell them, well, that's actually talking about the next chapter, and that's the transfiguration. Let's ask a question or two. If verse 28, Jesus coming while some of them are still alive in his kingdom, is the transfiguration just 6 days later, who died? Because this says some of them will still be alive. Most of them dead, some of them still alive. That's the implication of the language. Now, how do you get this as the transfiguration 6 days later? Well, here's another question I would have to ask. So you're saying the kingdom came 6 days later at the transfiguration? I mean, you got a Ricky Ricardo moment going on here. You're going to have to explain some stuff. You got lots of explaining to do. Hey, we got another call. This makes me scared. Let's see what happens here. Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Hello. You know me. My name is Samantha Reed. I go to the Choctaw Church of Christ in Arkansas.
Great. Hi, Samantha. How are you?
Facebook buds.
Yeah, we are. Great to hear from you. Hope things are well with you.
My question is, do you think that the doctrine of dispensationalism and futurism has a lot to do with why the world's in such a big mess? I mean, if you're being told that the end's going to come any second now, then a lot of people are like, well, why should we invest in being the salt of the earth and being the preservative of what's good in the world? That, Christians have just quit because of it.
Yes, 100%. You have got it. You've got it. Samantha sees things. Samantha and I are kind of connected. Lots of theories and conspiracies. But the thing about it is a lot of them are true. But, okay, outside of getting into that, let me address this, Samantha. Think about it like this. You have entire organizations that run ads soliciting money so that you can, aid, so that you can send money to them to aid in sending a Jew back to Israel. Have you ever seen any of those ads or heard of them?
Yes, I've seen a lot of that stuff. John Hagee does a lot of that kind of thing.
I know it. Well, let's look at the reasoning behind that. Why send Jews back to Israel? So they can be slaughtered.
Exactly.
That's
what I was thinking.
That's what they're teaching. They didn't even realize it. They didn't even realize it. And the dispensational belief is that the Jews have to return to Israel, rebuild the temple, reconstitute all of that Old Testament stuff. There's a lot of holes in that, by the way. And they have to... then the Jews will all be slaughtered when Messiah comes back and kills all of his enemies. That's what they're asking you to do. That's just wrong. That's just wrong.
Which is sick.
It's very sick. And that's not at all what the Scriptures teach. Not at all what the Scriptures teach. Zionism is what we're talking about. The preterist is not a Zionist. The preterist says, okay, Israel's done and over with. The new Jerusalem has been formed. It's a spiritual thing. It's not a physical thing. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't support Israel. By the way, the Israel that exists today is not the Jews. Guys, anyone who's listened to this.
It was formed by the United Nations, not the Jews.
Right.
That's what I think.
I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but I can tell you one thing. God had no hand in that.
Right.
They are not the biblical Jews. They're Jews in name only.
Would you say that that's why so many people, especially the New World Order, press futurism so much?
Yeah, if they're going to support anything...
If that makes any sense?
It does. If they're going to support anything, it's definitely a futurist agenda, even though they do not agree with that. They don't even care. But they want gullible Christians to support Israel at any cost. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't support Israel, but we shouldn't support Israel for religious reasons. As a matter of fact, Israel pretty much hates Christians. If you're a Christian,
right,
the people in Israel think you're an idiot. They're neither Jew nor Greek in Israel. They're pretty much, well, I don't know if they're atheists. I don't know if it would go that far, but they just don't care about our viewpoint when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I think it does make I think it makes a big difference in politics and the people's worldview.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. I appreciate the question.
Have a great night.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, some great questions. Nice to hear from people that I talk to on Facebook more than I ever would on the phone. So that's great. 317-626-5804. You're welcome to call with your questions. Maybe it sounds a little strange to you that I believe that Jesus has already returned. Well, let me say this. The Rothschilds. Yes, Bobby. I'll just leave it at that. You get me going, and you'll wind up on a flat earth or something. Anyway, see, I already got distracted. You might think it sounds a little strange to you when I say that I believe Jesus has already returned. Well, the reason I believe that is because of the victory of Christ. Think about it like this. The Scriptures teach, and most people believe, they're just 2,000 years skewed from the actual events. By the way, 317-626-5804. We'll take your live call. You can ask a question and so forth. Now, I have so many things going through my head. You guys have really stimulated my brain here tonight. So, most people believe that salvation comes and Jesus wins the victory when he returns and he defeats all of the demons and all of the devils, and he banishes Satan to hell, and that's when the victory is achieved. what happened in the first century? Did he just come for nothing and didn't accomplish anything? And there's no salvation till he returns? We read that just a moment ago. Listen to this. Let me read this to you. This is Hebrews chapter 9, verse 28. This is where Bobby made a great point out of just a few moments ago. So you want to go back and listen to this from the beginning when we're done. Don't do it now. Hebrews 9, verse 28. So you need to check this out. So Christ also, having been offered for once to bear the sins of many, that's the first time he came, will appear a second time for salvation without reference to sin. So the second time he comes, that's when salvation comes. The sin part has been dealt with. And when he returns the second time, this is where Julie came in. And Julie made a great point. People do not understand the feasts and the high priesthood, and all of that is interconnected. And we went to Leviticus chapter 17, or 16, I'm sorry. And in Leviticus 16, we read that the atonement is made when the high priest comes out of the temple. Now, let me point something out, okay? This is the victory that was gained in the first century that we live in today, all right? And it's when the high priest comes out of heaven and the atonement is complete. Do you get the picture? Under the 7 feasts, at the Feast of Atonement, the high priest sacrifices the bull. He goes into the most holy place, which Hebrews 9 signifies that the most holy place was a picture of heaven on earth. It was the physical representation on earth of heaven where God dwells in the spiritual realm. And the high priest goes into the temple. He sprinkles the blood. By that time, there was nothing in it. There was an empty room. And he's supposed to sprinkle the blood on the mercy seat and so forth. And then he comes back out and says, Yahweh has accepted the atonement and our sins are forgiven. And then everybody cheers, and then they're partying it up, and they're in the booths dwelling with God. And then they have this 8th day celebration. Those last 3 feasts, there's 21 days of some serious imagery. And they practiced that for 1,500 years so that when it actually happened, they wouldn't miss it. Well, we've missed it because we haven't studied the Old Testament. Let me clue you in. Jesus was our high priest. In Acts chapter 1, he ascended into heaven. What did he do when he went into heaven? Hebrews teaches us that he took the blood into heaven to offer it as the atonement for sin. The final, one time for all atonement. Yeah, Shemini Atzarat. Exactly, Bobby. Bobby gets it. So is he still there? If he's still in heaven and he hasn't returned, you cannot be saved. That's why people in the Church of Christ believe you go to the Hadean realm, because Jesus was not victorious. I think he was victorious. He said he was going to be. All of the prophecy points to his victory in the first century. Nothing, not one prophecy in the scriptures point to Jesus coming and salvation coming any later than the first century. 317-626-5804. So give us a call. Whether you agree or disagree, give us a call. So here's the deal. Jesus comes down out of heaven like he said he would in the lifetime of the people that were alive in the first century, and salvation came to mankind. That's the 7 feasts. And you have to follow those, and you have to see the type and the shadow and the antitype. You have to see that. You have to see the fulfillment of it. That's why I believe Jesus did what he said he was going to do. Now, this was a hard pill for me to swallow early on. I saw a lot of these concepts for years and years and years, but I ran hard from them. So I didn't have to answer to it. But eventually it got the best of me, and I just said, I'm either going to practice what I preach, or I just have to stop preaching. So it's the truth, and now I have to follow it. 317 626-5804 is the phone number, and certainly would love to have you call here. We still have some time. Would love to hear from you. Would really like to hear from my detractors on Facebook. Give me a call, 317-626-5804. See, here's the problem. These guys on Facebook, of course, everybody knows this already. Here's what happens. They don't want to ask one question. They want to ask 4,000 questions and expect you to answer it in 15 seconds or less, or 2 sentences or less. They do not understand Old Testament concepts and that information. When Jesus said in John 5:44-47, if you do not understand Moses, you cannot understand me. So if you don't understand Moses, in other words, you don't understand the writings, you don't understand the prophecies, you don't understand what was said in that old covenant, Genesis through Malachi, it's impossible for you to understand what Jesus was talking about. I didn't write that. I didn't say that. Jesus is the one who did. So they want to ask 4,000 questions, and then they never want to answer any question at all. Never, 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 ever will they answer any questions. You want to know why they won't answer any questions? Because they don't have the answer. Or equally, they already know the answer to it, and they know that they can't refute it. They can't explain it. So they just don't even bother. They often are extremely disrespectful. They are nothing but they only have keyboard courage. That's bad. That's bad. Call 317-626-5804. Right there's the phone number. See it? Right there. I just highlighted it. Give me a call. We can stick to one topic. We don't have to go forever and ever and ever. There's been times where I have talked with people on air like this and went on for 2 hours or 2.5 hours. And we don't have to do that. We can answer questions rather quickly. So it doesn't have to be any monumental deal. But we just want to get the information out there. No man knows the day or the hour. Okay, there's a good one. Let's talk about that. We got a few minutes. A few minutes here. No man knows the day or the hour. Let me show you something about no man knowing the day or the hour. Ready for this? We're going to go to Matthew chapter 24. Now, if you're not familiar with the 7 feasts, Leviticus chapter 23, and several other places, but if you're not familiar with these 7 feasts, you're going to be completely lost. If you're not familiar with the 7 feasts and how they worked, then you are going to, oh no, I cannot believe I did that. I just killed my other screen. My phone hit it. That's all right. I think it's back. We'll make it. We'll make it live, I hope. Where was I at? So, Matthew 24, no man knows the day or the hour. If you're trying to figure out this passage without understanding the 7 feasts, you will plug in information that you have learned in this century, in this decade, in this last week or this last 24-hour period, okay? And you will never be able to understand what the day or the hour is. So let me explain this. Matthew chapter 24, and this is verse 36. But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father alone. Let me show you this. This is actually a quote and a reference, a quote from Zechariah chapter 14, but a reference to several other places. It is a direct reference to the feasts. Let me show you this. Let's show you a couple things here. So Zechariah chapter 14. Here's what this says. Verse 6. In that day there will be no light. The luminaries will dwindle. Okay? Hold your place there, Zechariah 14. Go back over to Matthew 24. The luminaries will dwindle. What did he just talk about? In verse 29 of Matthew 24. But immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened. The sun is a luminary. And the moon will not give its light. By the way, the Bible says that the sun gives light and the moon gives light. They're luminaries. And the stars will fall from the sky and so forth. Go back to Zechariah chapter 14. In that day, verse 6, there will be no light. The luminaries will dwindle. For it will be a unique day which is known to the Lord, neither day nor night, but it will come about that at evening time there will be light. What he just described is what we find. Let's go back over here to Leviticus 23. I'm going to show you one of the feasts that he just described. You would never know this. You would never ever know this if you don't understand the feasts. So we're going to Leviticus chapter 23. Look at verse 26. So, verse 23. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, on the first of the month, you shall have a rest, a reminder by blowing trumpets, a holy convocation. You shall not do any laborious work. You shall present an offering by fire to the Lord. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, On exactly the 10th day of this 7th month is the day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation for you, and you shall humble your souls and so forth. And then you've got the Feast of Booths. Okay? This is what I was saying earlier. So those last three feasts, trumpets, atonement, and the Feast of Booths, it's really not tabernacles. That's more of a modern thing, I guess if you're going to say it that way. The tabernacle was the temple. The booths are the tents are what were set up outside of the temple for the people to dwell in. For Yahweh to come down and dwell with them. That was the imagery, which is 1 Thessalonians 4:13, by the way. Anyway, so those last three feasts. Now notice, when does it start? Well, there's a day given for every single feast except for one. We just read it. Again, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel in the 7th month on the first of the month. Well, isn't that a day? Like tomorrow or Friday. Friday's the first of the month, right? Well, yeah, because our calendar is set that way. Their calendar was not set that way. When the first day of the month came, it was dictated by what? The sun and the moon. The moon, exactly. So when the moon appeared at the first, that signified the first of the month. Well, there could be a couple days where there's no moon. You don't know when the first of the month is until the light appears in the sky at nighttime. And then as soon as they saw that, they had watchers, right? Watching for this first day of the month. And then they would run to the priest and they say, it's the first day of the month now. And the saying came about that this was a day that was known only to the Lord when the first of the month would come around. Only God knows when the first of the month is going to be. We have to watch the sky. What if it's cloudy and rainy or whatever? We can't see into the sky. We may totally miss the first of the month. It's only known to the Lord. Is this making any sense now? Let me read this again. Matthew chapter 24 and verse 36. But of that day and hour no one knows, not the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father alone. This is a quote from Zechariah 14. Zechariah 14 is following the feasts. Now listen to this. Let me read this again. Verse 6. This is Zechariah 14, verse 6. In that day there will be no light. The luminaries will dwindle. In other words, there's no light in the sky. You can't see the moon at night to tell if it's the first of the month. The luminaries will dwindle, for it will be a unique day which is known to the Lord. Did we really just read that? But we don't need the Old Testament, right? Really. A unique day which is known to the Lord. I'm reading the New American Standard 1995 version, right? neither day nor night. But, listen to this, when will this day come? The day will come about, but it will come about that at evening time there will be light. What is he talking about? At evening time, when it's dark, they see the very first glimpse, that little thumbnail thing of the moon, and then they go, okay, this is the first day of the month. You don't get that in the daytime, you get it at night. That's what Zechariah 14, 6 and 7 is talking about. Now notice this. We're going to go back to what Julie said just a moment ago, and what Bobby said just a moment ago. 317-626-5804. Give us a call. And what they both said was that salvation comes at the second coming of Christ, of Messiah. Now look at verse 8 of Zechariah 14. You've got this first light. This is the first day. This is the Feast of Atonement. When it starts, well, trumpets blast, then atonement, then the Feast of Booths, and then the 8th day celebration. In that day, living waters will flow out of Jerusalem. What are the living waters? The living waters that flow out of Jerusalem. This is like the third time this has been said between the last 3 chapters. It's when salvation comes. It's when salvation comes. Listen to this, chapter 13 and verse 1. In that day. Well, what day? This is all talking about the same day. In that day, a fountain will be opened for the house of David and for the inhabitants of Jerusalem for sin and for impurity. Salvation comes. When? In that day. It's not one single day. It's this time period, the event. What day is this referring to? Listen to this. Chapter 12. So you've got the luminaries sounding the trumpet for the day that is only known to the Lord, which is the second coming. You've got the fountain being opened in chapter 13. When? Look at verse 2. In that day. What is this day that they're talking about? Somewhere off in our future? No. Check this out. Chapter 12, verse 1. The burden of the word of the Lord concerning Israel. Thus declares the Lord, who stretches out the heavens, lays the foundation of the earth, and forms the spirit of man within him. Behold, I am going to make Jerusalem a cup of reeling, a cup that causes reeling, to all the peoples around. And when the siege is against it, against Jerusalem, it will also be against Judah. And it will come about in that day. When was the last time Jerusalem was laid siege? In 70. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 24, that day that this is talking about, Zechariah 12, 13 to 14. That day, when it occurs, it will never happen again. It's a one-time event. That's the day. That's the event, the series of events that are going to take place. See, I told you, if you don't know the Old Testament, if you don't understand the feasts, you just get lost in these things. Okay, so that puts me a little bit over time, and I really try to keep this to about an hour. They tell me, I don't know how true this is, that when you're preaching, you can only keep your audience's attention for 18 to 22 minutes. After that, everything you say goes out the window. If that's the case, then I preach 3/4 of a sermon that nobody hears. Because I always go over that. But an hour is about tolerable if you're really getting into the study. And I do appreciate how you all get into the study and the way that you make comments and even called tonight. We're going to try to get some more comments. Maybe we'll do this again next week. I still have a couple things I want to finish up with the J.R. Bronger video and the Fatal Flaws of Futurism. So I'll finish those eventually. But be back with us next week. Now tell somebody to watch this. Send them the link. Share this on your timeline. What do you have to be ashamed of? Okay, we're talking about the gospel. This is stuff that proves that Messiah came, he was victorious, and we can have salvation today. But you cannot have salvation. You cannot have the washing of regeneration outside of Christ. And to be in Christ, you're going to be washed. You can't be washed without the water. See, here's the thing. A lot of people get on me. Oh, you preach water baptism salvation. No, I don't. I preach what Jesus did. I'm just doing the same thing Paul did and Peter and everybody else, all the other disciples and apostles. I'm just preaching that same thing. But here's the thing about this. Man is a dual nature being. We are the only being, as far as I can tell, that God created that is physical and spiritual. At least for the first part of our existence. 70, 80 years or so. If you're like the lady who's 119, then... So 119. But anyway, so that first part of your existence is just a few years. But then the rest of it can be more. A lot more. Eternity, if you want it. So the first part of your existence is physical, but it's also spiritual simultaneously. So the things that we do physically affect us spiritually. Which is odd, because that's not the way it worked for the angels that God and the other beings that God created. They were purely spiritual. When they sinned, it was it. That's it. Kaput. Over with. Done. No chance of redemption for them. Just read Genesis 6 and so forth. And so on. So, matter of fact, Enoch talks about some of that stuff. Very interesting. So we are dual nature. If you have a conversion of the heart, you will have a conversion of the flesh. Does that mean you're going to be perfect? Yes, in Christ, but no, not in the flesh. But you live a life of gratitude, not a life of servitude. And you serve because of the gratitude that you have for the salvation that came in and the plan that has been worked. That's why baptism, water baptism, is as important a part of the salvation process as any of it. And people say, "Oh, well, that's works salvation." Yes, but not like they make it sound. Let me point something out. If you say the sinner's prayer, you are physically doing something. That's just as much a physical act as walking down into a pool of water. Okay, there you go. Next week, same time, same place. We're going to talk some more about something else. It'll be interesting. I'll try to make it interesting. I thank you so much for your comments. Hey, I love each and every one of you. I just want to see you saved. If you're not in Christ, get in Christ. Be baptized into Christ. Give your heart to the Lord. Give your body to the Lord. And make that spiritual sacrifice, which is our reasonable service. Excellent point. Look at Naaman. What did he have to do? Nice one, Rick. What did he have to do? Put himself aside and dip 7 times. All right, there you go. All right, love y'all. We will see you next time around. And hey, you guys are the best. Just hang in there, and I'll see you next time.